Hi guys, this is Max here, back again with hopefully another great political video, and today we're going to take a look at the trends of the 2020 presidential election. Now, I am announcing some further videos coming out in the future. We will have the Virginia and New Jersey gubernatorial elections, and I'll try my best to do a live stream on them. It will be very interesting to see whether Virginia actually gets very competitive, might be a Republican victory, or just goes the way we'd usually expect it to go and ends up being a rather decisive Democratic victory. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. Today we're taking a look at the trends and the shifts of the 2020 election. That's what this map here represents. The arrows that go right mean that these counties went more Republican. The arrows which go blue means that the counties went more Democrat. Now, at the end of the video, if you watch it to an end, I'm gonna tell you which of these counties I live in. So stay tuned because you're gonna find out today. Now, one of the most significant shifts of the 2020 election were in southern Texas, where Latino voters just swung heavily Republican. Starr County swung 55 points, and Zapata County swung 38 points. That county, in fact, was won by Donald Trump, as you can see here. And keep in mind, that was a safe Clinton county. She had zero problems carrying it, and Joe Biden ended up losing it. I think it's the first time in almost 100 years a Republican won this county. Now, another few Republican shifts are in Utah, which was to be expected here in the Mormon Belt. Evan McMullin, a third party candidate last time, picked up many voters. And of course, rural Ohio continued to swing Republican. Arkansas, which basically swung a Republican every single election since 1992, I believe, also went vastly to the right, and so on and so forth. However, Joe Biden ended up winning, and obviously, as a result of that, Democrats had lots of gains as well. They maybe didn't really gain with Latino voters, but they did gain in the suburbs. Most significantly in Georgia and the Georgia suburbs. Lots of these heavily populated counties like Gwinnett County, Rockdale County, and DeKalb County, they all went heavy for the Democrats. And most of this can probably be assumed happened because the population in the suburbs heavily rejected Donald Trump, but also mostly due to demographic changes, actually. Lots of black folks moved there. Those suburbs are getting more diverse, while actually Ohio and the Rust Belt in general is getting less diverse, which might explain lots of those shifts. But anyway, Democrats improved there. They also improved in other suburbs in northern and central Virginia, like they did during the last few election cycles. They improved in Pennsylvania. They, interestingly enough, improved in upstate New York as well and regressed in the city of New York. Something that also happened in Pennsylvania. Cities went slightly to the right, or in the case of Miami, sizably to the right, because it has a large Latino population. But basically, the reason why some cities shifted right can be blamed on Republicans improving with Hispanic communities in those towns. And maybe in California, San Francisco, and like Santa Clara went slightly to the right because they were protest voting against the lockdowns. But we did see in the recall election that there really wasn't all that much of a blowout to Newsom, so we don't even have to discuss that any further. Now, in Minnesota, that was a state which was extremely close in 2016. Actually, it ended up being pretty sizable for Joe Biden. It was a pretty big victory. He won by around 6 or 7 or even 8%. We can look it up here. Yeah, Joe Biden won Minnesota by 7. Now, the reason why this happened, even though some Democratic mayors up here in the Iron Range area actually ended up endorsing Donald Trump, Joe Biden still won the state by a larger amount, simply because the third party vote, which was pretty big in Minnesota, split heavily in his favor. And he also won Wisconsin due to suburban shifts, won Michigan mainly due to suburban shifts. Joe Biden did do slightly better with the white working class, like in parts of western Michigan, northern Michigan, western Pennsylvania, but really decisive for his victory were these suburban shifts. They were also pretty heavy in Colorado. And the big question is, will Democrats hold on to their suburban gains, and will Republicans hold on to their gains with Hispanics and with the white working class? Well, I would say yes yes, and at the same time, no and no. We don't know for sure. But I will give you my personal take on this. I cannot predict the future, but I can predict that very likely these voters in southern Texas will stay Republican. They might not be as Republican as they were in 2020, they might be more Republican, but in general, these trends were reflected in mayoral elections and special elections for the state house and state senate in Texas that we saw during the last few months. These swung heavily to the right compared how they once appeared to stand. And also, it we do see a pattern like this all across America, mostly in the border area though, where these counties become more and more red even though those are minority heavy areas. So, overall I would say yes, Republicans are improving with minority voters, particularly in the border region, and they'll continue to do so. Now, in regards to the suburban shift, will this continue or will this stop at some point? Well, we will see a pretty good we'll get a pretty good clue of that as soon as we see the Virginia gubernatorial election, because in Virginia the suburbs and people who live in there play a very big role. If we, for example, go here on the list for Virginia and look at size of lead, Northern Virginia is where the population is. And if you control the north, you basically control the entire rest of the state. And then we will get a pretty good clue of whether the Democrats will hold on to their suburban gains or whether they'll go back to the Republicans. In terms of the rural areas, I believe it's pretty safe to say that they will continue to shift Republican. I really don't want to offend any rural populist Democrats like Eastern Kentucky Democrat out there, but that's most likely how it's gonna go. Anyway, as right now, I really hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time, and goodbye. Just very quickly at the end, my county is Caledonia County, Vermont. Right here, Joe Biden won by 15 points. That's where I live.